Hi guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Denise. Today we are going to talk about persistence and why you may be efforting and persisting and you're not seeing anything change in your reality. And I want to very blatantly point out that if you are persisting in changing your reality, you're doing it wrong. So all of manifestation, all of the teachings, all of scripture, all of everything that we're learning is showing us and pointing to the fact that what we see in our 3D reality isn't truth, isn't real. It is merely a reflection of our state of consciousness. And the teachings are trying to get us to wake up to that realization and to basically simply put, stop valuing the reflection, stop valuing the 3D reality, and begin to truly value and uphold our imagination, what we're perceiving our current reality, what the lens through which we're perceiving our current reality, what we're imagining about our future, and what we are recalling through what we believe to be our memories and the perception through which we're recalling these memories. And understanding that all of the memories that we hold and our perception of our current reality and the anticipation of what might happen in the future, all of it is being perceived from a state of consciousness. And that's the only thing that matters. How am I perceiving this? How am I recalling this? How am I remembering this? How am I interpreting this moment right now? And how am I imagining my future will play out or will be or will look? And if we continue to intend and affirm and persist in trying to change our circumstances or our 3D reality, we are just continuing to perpetuate this illusion that 3D is real, that 3D determines, that 3D is more important and more valuable than imagination. And that cycle will not get you the reality that you're desiring. It will perpetuate this frustration with 3D, always falling short, always disappointing, never conforming, right? And like really understanding that reality is a reflection and it will not conform and it will not change until you conform, until you change. And what that means is you conform, well, stop conforming to 3D, which is what most of you and I was doing. We were conforming to our reality. We were saying, this shows up, that means this. There's no money, it means there's not enough, and I'm not worthy. SP's not reaching out, SP's not committing, SP's not asking me out on a date. I'm not chosen, I'm not loved, I'm not worthy. So we have been perpetuating this cycle of looking at 3D reality and then conforming to it. In other words, allowing our 3D to determine our state, allowing our 3D to determine our I amness. And the whole purpose of these teachings is to teach you to stop doing that and to leave the 3D alone, to completely drop it, to shut the door to it, right? And so that doesn't mean incessantly trying to will the 3D to change. It doesn't mean having a list of intentions and affirmations about how they're going to show up different and the money's going to be there and I'm going to get it overnight and it's going to happen fast and it's there and it's there and it's now and it's now and it's now. All of that is just perpetuating this false belief that reality matters, reality is real, reality determines, reality is fact, reality decides my state. And it's just going to get worse and worse until it finally doesn't, right? And that's what happens. It sort of just kind of falls apart and crumbles because it's going to keep pulling away the previous bits of movement and evidence that it has shown you until you finally break, until you finally just can't, like, you can't use your reality to validate anymore, right? Like, In other words, it's going to get worse in your 3D, which I don't want to look at it as, good or bad, better or worse, but you will get farther away from what you're desiring to manifest until you just finally have no other choice but to go within and determine your state and stop allowing your 3D to do such. So, how do you do this, right? Like you let it be. In terms of manifesting money, and I'm talking about this specifically because there was a comment recently. Somebody asked but what do you do if you need the money like overnight? And somebody commented, persist. And while that's true, but you don't persist in needing the money. You don't persist in trying to make the money show up. You don't persist in making this manifestation of money be the thing that can allow you to feel peace or to feel relief or to feel abundance. That's the mistake. That's where we're erring, is in persisting to try to change our 3D so that we can feel different. So what do? You understand that it's going to play out however it's going to play out. And you just stop. You stop trying to change the trajectory. You stop trying to change what's happening in 3D. And you recognize what is the story I've been telling myself based on this manifestation. In other words, with the money not being there, what am I making that mean to be true of me? Am I holding shame around it? Am I feeling guilty? Do I have a story that I need to work harder to make money? Do I have a story that there's just simply not enough? Do I feel bad because I can't pay whomever it is that I'm supposed to be paying? Am I worried about, what are you worried about? Because not all of us have had money struggles, but I have definitely had money struggles. And looking back, I've always been okay, right? There were plenty of times where I didn't have the money for something. Plenty of times. More times than I can count on all my fingers and all my toes. But it always worked out. I made it. I was always okay. And now here I am in a beautiful home doing fine. But it wasn't always the case, although I was still always okay and I still always made it. So I think, the most important thing is for you to recognize that instead of trying to make that money show up in time so you can pay that bill or do that thing, release the story that you've been telling yourself. Let go of how you've been identifying with this manifested reality. Stop allowing this manifested reality to determine what your I amness is. And just leave the manifested reality alone. Okay, so maybe the money didn't show up or isn't showing up, but I will still be okay. Right? It's about not allowing yourself to go into this state of panic, this state of not enough, this state of guilt, this state of fear, this state of regret, whatever the state is that this manifestation is perpetuating within you. You have to recognize that state. And while leaving the 3D alone, start determining a new one for yourself. It's okay. It'll always be okay. If the money's not there, it'll always be okay. And you don't have to look at it as you've done something wrong or you're a bad person or you need to feel guilty for this or you didn't try hard enough. Just let it be and start determining your state. I'm still abundant. I'm still always provided for. I'm always taken care of. It always does work out. I really don't have to worry about this. I can just leave it alone and work on my state. I can leave it alone and work on the story I've been telling. I can leave it alone and work on my I amness. Right? And then, somebody else also commented about what if you're in no contact and it really sucks? And yeah, I get it. It does. But if you're with your specific person, allowing the lack of communication to determine your state, then again, you're doing it wrong. You're missing the mark. You're perpetuating this feedback loop of what's happening in my reality is more important than what's happening in my imagination. What's happening in my reality, in fact, determines what's happening in my imagination. And that's backwards, right? That's the old way. That doesn't work anymore. We need to start thinking in the new way. We need to start valuing our consciousness over our 3D manifestation. We need to start valuing our imagination and start valuing what we're remembering and the perception we're remembering it from over what manifested, over the old story, basically. So if SP is not reaching out or not showing up the way you want them to, what are you making that mean about yourself? That you're not loved, that you're rejected, that you're not chosen, that you're doing something wrong, that you're not trying hard enough, that you must be missing something. And you are. But the only thing you're missing is that you're continuing to allow the lack of communication from your SP mean your I amness. You're continuing to say, I am not enough because this isn't happening yet. That's the only thing you're doing wrong. You're putting too much importance on your 3D, and you're allowing it to determine who you are. You're allowing it to determine who you're being. That's it. So what do? You stop trying to make them text you. You stop trying to affirm and intend that they do. You stop trying to force it. You stop trying to imagine it just so you can feel better. And you recognize that you've been assigning meaning that is not true based on what's happening in your reality. And you start to decide your state. You determine your I amness. Even though this isn't showing up, even though they're not messaging me, I am still worthy of being loved. I am chosen. I am adored. I am cherished. I am enough. You hold your head high. You start to love on yourself as much as you can. You start to think loving thoughts of yourself. You change the way you're remembering your situation with your specific person. You choose new memories simply because you are the operant power and you can. Not because you're needing to change things so desperately and I hope this works, I hope this works. You're doing it because you deserve it, because it feels good to think of it this way instead. You're doing it because you're saying, I'm not going to allow my manifested reality control what I think anymore, or control the memories that I hold. I'm going to be the operant power that I am, and I'm going to create new memories that feel better. And I'm going to be the operant power that I am, and I'm going to interpret my current circumstances as better because it feels good. I'm going to be the operant power that I am, and I'm going to anticipate a future that feels better. I'm going to imagine the things from the perspective of fulfillment. The things that have yet to come, that I've yet to experience, the things that I'm experiencing now, and the things that I've experienced of what I believe to be my past. I'm going to learn to imagine them from the perspective of fulfillment. And I'm going to persist in that. And I'm going to just live there to the best of my ability without consistently checking for it in the 3D, because that means I'm valuing the 3D over where I'm living in imagination. And that's backwards. So you let it be. You leave it alone. It's going to play out how it's going to play out. But if you continue to need your 3D to change, and if you continue to put all of your effort and all of your attention and all of your persistence on changing these 3D circumstances, you will continue to manifest from lack. You will continue to allow your 3D to control your state. You will continue to struggle and feel bad and think you're doing something wrong. And I want to prevent you from that, at least as early on as possible. As quickly as possible. So I want you to really start contemplating what you've been valuing. This is imagination or internal state or consciousness or awareness. There's many different words you can use to describe it versus 3D. And what are you making more important? What are you valuing more? And recognize it anytime you're doing it. Point it out to yourself. You check your phone, you feel disappointed. Oh, I'm allowing my 3D to determine my state. I'm making my 3D more important than my state. I'm making the reflection more important than the truth that the reflection has derived from. Right? And now it's not a truth that's a definitive truth, but it's a truth you've been holding on to. You've been saying, I am not chosen. Thus, the reflection is showing you not chosen. And then you're trying to make the reflection change so that you can start saying, I am chosen. Quite simply put, you need to start saying, I am chosen, while the reflection is still reflecting back your old statement of I am not chosen. That's it. That's it. That's the only thing you need to do is learn to tell a new story without needing the reflection to change. Because that's backwards and that's never going to work. So, same thing with abundance, right? Like, don't allow this 3D manifestation of lack mean that you're not worthy, or mean that you need more, or mean that there isn't enough. And I get it. It's easier said than done, but it is possible. Trust me, I know. It is possible. And you go through stages. Like, I went from feeling incredibly anxious, paranoid, uncomfortable, really focusing on my 3D, needing it to change. And it's like this, it became this like progression of just pulling away more and more, caring less and less about what was happening. Basically, I got to a place where I was like, fuck it. Honestly, like, oh, all right. That bill's not going to get paid yet. Okay, whatever. Instead of, oh my God, I need to figure this out. I need to get that money. What am I going to do? Oh, this sucks. Oh, I feel so bad. I wish, I'm so frustrated with this. This needs to change. I can't do this anymore. Like, perpetuating that whole, my 3D has me all riled up and has me making all these conclusions about myself. It got to the point where I just felt so far removed from what was happening that it was just completely neutral. And I was still able to just, or I was not still, I was now in that then moment, those moments, able to just sit in the money not showing up. And I had to learn to be okay with it. Or the messages not being there, and learning to just be okay with it. And it starts with sort of just being okay with it. And then it turns into like really embracing where you're going in imagination, really embracing that, wow, I am okay with it, and almost thriving off of that, feeling really good about it, because it does feel really good. When you really break that loop and you stop allowing your 3D to determine your state, you are being the power. You are feeling the power. Like, you are the power. And it feels amazing. And it feels so good to actually get to that place where you go, I don't even need them to text me. I don't need them to tell me I'm chosen so that I can believe I'm chosen. I don't need the money to be there so that I can believe I'm abundant. Because you are abundant. And if you need or want something, like, look at the things in your life that you do have and start making those important. But I mean, ultimately, I want you to stop looking at 3D entirely. I want you to really learn to value your consciousness, your I amness. Make that the most important thing. But who am I saying I am? What meaning am I assigning this? And I don't just mean like what meaning on a surface level, like deeply. What meaning am I assigning this? Who am I declaring I am as a result of this manifestation? And how can I change that? Or how can I let go of that? Because that doesn't feel good. Right? And so that's what I wanted you guys to understand. That's the most important thing, is to no longer allow the 3D to determine your I amness. And that doesn't mean the 3D has to change so that you can start saying you are something different. That's not what that means. It means really just leaving it alone, letting it be. Everything will be fine. You're going to be okay. You've made it this far. You're going to be fine. Trust me. You will be okay if that bill doesn't get paid on time. You will be okay if your SP doesn't text you this weekend. You will be okay. But if you want to be better than okay, if you want to thrive, if you want to really get this, stop trying completely to get them to change or to get the money to show up. And decide that even though that money is not here, I am going to imagine and tell myself that I am the most abundant, prosperous, wealthy individual, because I have the power of imagination. And I can imagine anything that I want. and I can live there anytime I want. It's always available to me. It never runs out. It's never lacking. You never get to the bottom. You never use it all. There's more and more and more and more and more. It is an entire stream of abundance that is consistently available to you in each now moment. And that is what you're here to learn. That's what I want you to embrace. This stream of abundance is your consciousness. The stream of love is your consciousness. The stream of whatever, worthiness, chosenness, being special, being important. It's your consciousness. What are you being consciously aware of? And if it's anything outside of you, please stop. Just quite simply, please stop. All right, there's my video for today. Have an amazing rest of your day, and I will see you next video. Bye.